Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. Today I want to talk about when the magic doesn't work. So, if you're like me, you're used to getting what you want. And when things don't go your way, sometimes we get frustrated. I know that when I was first getting into magic, manifestation, and even evoking different spirits, the main impulse for me starting that whole process was because life was not satisfactory, and there were so many things that I wanted and I was not able to get. In fact, I started magic to be able to influence reality in such a way that I can get the things I want. So what happens when you don't get what you want? The first thing that comes to mind is shadow work and understanding that it's more important to identify the reason why we want a certain thing. It's more important to understand that than it is to actually get the thing that you're looking for. So today, there was something that I wanted to manifest, and this still affects even me and all my years of experience. And the thing did not come to pass how I wanted it to. And I got a little frustrated. Even understanding that everything happens the way that it's supposed to. We know this, like we know the cliches. We know that there are times and places for things to happen. But still, when you don't get your way, it can be very frustrating. So for me, I found myself really questioning spirit, right? Like, I commanded this thing to happen. Why didn't it happen? Right? We have all these other things that manifest, small things that are kind of trivial, things that don't really matter as much. But like the real deal, Holyfield thing that I really want to happen doesn't seem to be coming to pass, right? That can be extremely frustrating, especially when you've been getting results time after time after time. So I had to do some contemplating, some thinking, right? What is the thing that I'm wanting? Why do I want it? What benefit does it have to me? Is it useful? Is it appropriate? And the answer that I got was this. Who wants the thing? Who wants it? Like, this is where we really come into understanding the difference between the ego and the higher self. Now, as I always state, the ego is not this personality of who you think you are and this grand personality. Ego is simplified. It's the function of this is me, this is not me, right? This is me, this is not me. That's what ego is. The thing that decides what is you and what's not you, what you're attached to and what you're differentiating from. And as I was in meditation, as I was in discussion with myself, what I have come to realize is when we talk about ego, look at all the problems that you've had in your life. Look at all the difficulties. Look at all the things that have caused long-standing trouble. All of those were caused by ego, and ego is short-sighted. Ego is based entirely upon the five senses. The things you hear, see, smell, taste, and feel. And you build a memory out of that. So ego is, what's the word? Let's see, there's foresight and there's also hindsight. Ego operates in hindsight. Ego only operates based on memory and what you've already experienced. Whereas intuition and higher self has an expanded perspective, and it can see. And as I stated in the cyclomancy class, intuition, it isn't just what some mystical spirit is telling you. Intuition is also dealing with the subconscious mind and all the data that you pick up, right? You can enter a room and all of a sudden you get this weird feeling like, oh, I should get out of here. This is not the place to be. Well, that's not simply coming from some mystical spirit. The subconscious mind has scanned the room. It has seen all the faces. It has felt all the personalities present. And it makes a decision in conjunction with ego, right? It's not separate. It includes ego. And it has taken everything that you've perceived and has identified a threat. Now, the conscious mind may not have picked it up. The conscious mind is slower. The subconscious mind is slower than the conscious mind. So, when we speak of intuition, it isn't simply this mystical presence from out of nowhere. It also includes your subconscious subliminal perceptions. So, if ego has caused all the trouble that I've ever had in my life, if ego has caused all the trouble that you've ever had in your life, when you don't get what you want, especially when you're performing magic, ritual, and attempting to manifest, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes you're prevented from getting that thing because your subconscious mind understands in the long run, this is not what's going to benefit you. In the long run, this is not useful or appropriate. Now, here's the thing. When you have this ability to manifest reality, when you have this ability to create the world and the reality that you want to create, sometimes you have to identify what's coming from ego and what's coming from intuition. Not all the time, but sometimes if you're blocked from what you're trying to manifest, it very well may be that the desire to manifest that thing is coming from ego and not from intuition. See, they talk about the will of God, right? We talk about coming into alignment with the higher self. Well, that involves and includes understanding the difference between what the ego wants and what the higher self already has in line. Now, this might sound religious. This might sound like, oh, God has a plan for me. But I'm speaking about something that's bigger than just religion. That's deeper than just religion. When you come into alignment with the higher self, you're coming into alignment with a completely different will, a completely different purpose. Like I said, the higher self identifies not just the subconscious mind and everything that you've accumulated, but also foresight, also what's going to happen in the future. So oftentimes, when you don't get what you want in the moment, it's because it's in your best interest and your ego is too blind to realize that, right? You might want to hook up with somebody. You might want to get a certain thing, right? You might want to manifest a certain object, and you'll get frustrated because it doesn't happen. But the thing is, you have to identify, what team are you on? Are you on team five senses, or are you on team higher self, on team intuition? This is why it's so important to trust intuition. This is why it's so important to do shadow work, because what you'll start to learn is that the ego wants things that will satisfy its deficiencies. It wants things that will satisfy what it has never had, or what it has lacked, or what it has lost. But you got to understand, there is no loss. You haven't lost anything. Why? Because you don't own anything. The whole concept of ownership and loss is entirely ego. So while you might want that vehicle, you might want that person, you might want whatever object or position in life, sometimes the subconscious mind can already identify this is not what you need. So instead of getting frustrated, take the time to sit down and identify, is this really useful and appropriate for me? Is this really what I want? Is this really what I need? So to sum everything up, if you find yourself doing rituals, if you find yourself performing attempts to manifest a certain reality and it doesn't come through, the first thing I want you to identify is the time frame that you set. Did you set an unrealistic time frame? I noticed that what I was talking about earlier, I set an unrealistic time frame because I really wanted it. Why did I really want it? Because my ego felt that I deserved it, right? But upon exploration, I realized this thing wasn't useful or appropriate. It wasn't useful or appropriate. And if I got it, I'd lose something even more important. So take the time. When you get frustrated because you didn't get what you want, take the time to consider and identify what's useful and appropriate. All right, so this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you all. Peace.